Hello and welcome to How to Lead Your Business with Peter Cox. You're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. How will you lead them? Join us for this podcast where we dive deep into business leadership. This is the podcast where business owners and entrepreneurs learn how to grow their leadership to unlock business and personal growth, empower teams, and drive success. Whether you're a startup or scaling to the next level, we've got the insights, the strategies, the intellectual property you need to grow in leadership, to fuel your team and fuel your business to go to the next level. Let's get into this. Hello and welcome again to How to Lead Your Business podcast with Coxie. It's great to have you with us. My special guest today is someone I've known for probably 20 years, and I've watched his career grow from strength to strength, starting in the plumbing industry. Matt Jones is the founder of Tradie Web Guys, one of Australia's leading trade business marketing agencies, and also the founder of The Site Shed, one of the world's leading podcasts for tradies and contractors with over 400 published episodes. He's a weapon at growing not only his business, but he's been instrumental in helping many trades-based businesses grow. Today he's going to talk about how to double your business in 12 months. It sounds like a no-brainer in theory, but actually doing that with your team is quite another thing. Strap in. Jonesy has a great deal of wisdom to share with us today in leading our teams and businesses. Well, good morning wherever you are in the world right now. Special guest, very successful businessman in his own right. And his name is Matt Jones from The Site Shed and Tradie Web Guys. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning, Pedro. Nice to be on your show.
Yes.
How does it feel with the shoe on the opposite foot?
Well, it's going to be very interesting asking you questions, Matthew. Very interesting. For those you don't know, Matt has a business called The Site Shed, and he's interviewed over 400 guests on his program there, which is to support people in the trade industry. And Matthew, I just want to ask you firstly, tell us a bit about your story, your journey, how you ended up scaling your business and from being a plumber, traveling around the world to where you are today.
Okay, well, with respect to all of your listeners and viewers, I'll try and keep it brief. But essentially, I grew up on the North Shore of Sydney, serving, and after school, I never did very well at school. Actually, I was a bit of a academic dunce, if you want to say that. You relate to that at all, Pete?
Yes, I do.
So after school, I was kind of faced with the decision of, okay, well, you can go to university and struggle like you have at school, or you can go and do something you'll most likely enjoy with using your hands. So I went into a trade. I did a plumbing apprenticeship. And the plumbing apprenticeship was very well suited for me. I really enjoyed it. I worked with a company on the North Shore of Sydney, did my apprenticeship there, and after my apprenticeship finished, I basically packed up and went overseas for a few years, traveling around North America and Europe mostly. And while I was away, I started taking a bit of interest in business. And I don't know why, because while I was at school, I couldn't think of anything worse. But then while I was away, I guess just as maturity happens and a bit of self-independence and stuff, I started taking interest in business. So when I came back, I came back to Sydney 3 years later. I took another job as a plumber, and I was sort of working my way up there in a management position, which was okay. But I just had this feeling that I couldn't really, there was more to it, there was more to it than what we were doing. And so it was you actually who introduced me to one of your clients at the time, Scotty, who brought us in to start up a business for them. It was a technology that essentially was to distribute it was a business that was to distribute a plumbing technology to plumbers primarily throughout Asia Pacific. And so I took that role on for a couple of years, and during that time I noticed a trend where there were a lot of the and it was great working with them. I learned a lot, like super successful business operation.
What was the biggest thing? What was the biggest thing you learned from them? Because they got a very successful business. What was the biggest thing you learned from them?
Well, I mean, there were good and bad things I learned from them, to be fair. I think it's great watching the way Scotty dealt with people. Like, he was very good with people. And that was kind of his role in the business, you know, as the director, and he did that very well. But I mean, like anything, there's pros and cons, and I suppose we saw a lot of trends there for people that were selling these program technologies and setups and things too, and they just didn't have any idea on how to market themselves, and so that sort of led me into setting up a business that did that. We sort of initially started with plumbing companies, and we helped them build websites and stuff like that, which I had no idea how to do, by the way. So I had to go find a team that could do it, which I did. And then, very soon that transitioned into working with all trades. And that was 13 years ago.
And so, your business is remote. How many countries have you got staff in today?
I've got staff in Australia. I've got staff in New Zealand. I've got staff in the Philippines, and I've got staff in Pakistan.
And what's the biggest thing you've learned about leading people remotely, leading people through technology like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. Truthfully, I don't really know any different because we've always been remote. So when COVID came around and everyone started talking about going remote, it was a bit of a stale conversation in our office. But I think you just got to have processes down, really, and you've got to equip people with processes and tools and things like that so that they know how to do the task, because you literally can't stand over the top of them and show them how to do something.
Right, which means you understand the principle of duplication.
Well, yeah, but then off the back of that as well, you've got to, and this truthfully is a very much a journey, not a destination, the getting buy-in on the processes you create and the systems and involving team in creating them and things like that, so that you're always like collectively improving it together, as opposed to just having someone at the top write process and then give it to someone down below and go do that. Like, it doesn't really work that way.
So collaboration and a team working together to evolve the business.
And empowerment, like just empowering them to actually take control and make those decisions.
Great.
That's a big thing. And that's really, otherwise you just end up with a job and you're just constantly like barking orders at people, and it shouldn't really be like that.
Right. So you don't micromanage people.
I try not to. I sort of prefer to have the 30,000-foot overview kind of model. And I mean, you literally have to have a 30,000-foot overview model as you're flying over Karachi. So, you've got to be able to equip them with the tools for success at a distance. And
have you used personality profiling for recruitment?
We do it for all of our recruitment. We use the Personality Plus Florence Littauer model.
And who taught you that?
You did.
That's right.
You know what? It's the only book to this day that I've bought by the box and given away.
Yeah.
And it's still, when people say, what's your most recommended book? That's the first one. And it doesn't matter, because I think the problem with recommending books is, for most people, you need to, I can recommend a book to you right now, which has been great for me. But if you're not in that space to learn that thing, it'll be a waste of your time. And I've done that. I mean, how many times have you read a book and then gone back and read it 5 years later and it's like a different book?
Yes, true.
But I find with Personality Plus, you could give that to anyone at any time, at any stage, and it'll be amazing.
Well, it's the first step of my leadership dynamics process with clients when I mentor them, is I profile them. And
do you use that model?
Florence Littauer, Personality Plus, 100%. So, for example,
there's a lot of different models out there, isn't there? I mean, I know it stems back now. What I know, I didn't back then, but that sort of stems back from like an ancient Greek methodology, and there's been lots of people to put different spins on it through DISC and all these other things. But I find the Florence Littauer one, probably because I just know it so well.
I mean, I've got a client where I've got 45 profiles done, giving them a big presentation about what it really all means now, a brand new client. They're fascinated by it, and they've done profiling before, but then they just file it. They don't use it for recruitment. They don't use it for retention. They don't use it to understand how to build better relationships within their team. Because
as part of onboarding, we have a because all of our boarding is all remote, and the team when new staff come on board, they essentially onboard themselves. We've got a really good process for that, and one of the things we implemented. And it actually came from a former team member. It was her idea, but we call it the my SOP. Well, we have like SOPs galore, standard operating procedures, and we call this one the my SOP. And essentially, it's like this is the SOP on me, and as part of that, you put in there your personality plus profile. Like screenshot off the test, and you drop it in there so okay, well, this person's a melancholy, or this person's a phlegmatic choleric, or whatever it might be, and you sort of, once you've gone through the learnings, you sort of have a good understanding of how to communicate with them.
And what is leadership to you, Jonesy? I mean, you're leading. How many staff have you got now?
I think at the last count there's like 17 or something.
Yep. So you're leading 17 people in 4 different countries. And what do you think leadership is? For you to be an effective leader to lead those people, what's 1 or 2 things you think you've really got to nail?
Definitely empowerment. So like equipping them with the decisions, or equipping them with the tools for success, empowering them to actually be able to do the thing they need to do. And then I suppose tying back to like communication in the space of like helping them understand what it is they're meant to be doing and what success looks like for that position. So we use the scorecard system for that, which has had a few different spins on it. But Dr. Jeff Smart wrote a book called Who, which is very good, and it talks about some of these principles which we deployed, and similar to that's sort of on the personal level. Like you I don't know if you've read Gino Wickman's Traction, where they talk about the like rocks and there's different things, same sort of thing, essentially, just making sure that when you have people in your business, they know, okay, well, these are the things that I'm responsible for. These are the KPIs that I'm responsible for. So it's different to roles and responsibilities. Like it's actually outcomes. Like this is the outcome. It's done or it's not done.
Yes, I think that's a very important point. I mean, leaders are effective. Managers are efficient. Effectiveness means you nail the outcome, what actually happened with what you did, what your behavior was for that day, what was the result.
Yeah, and for context, for the listeners out there, if you're trying to you want an example of what that might look like, if you were, say, in accounts, like your responsibility might be to manage all of the company accounting, right? Okay, well, what does that actually mean? Whereas an outcome might be all reconciliation must be done by close of business Friday afternoon. So
correct.
Essentially, it's like, well, you've done that or you haven't. Like managing the accounts is a bit vague, but like if you've reconciled the accounts on Friday afternoon, like it says in your scorecard, that's done or it's not.
It's about outcomes. It's about results. It's about performance. It's not about tick the box. Too many business owners have behaviors that don't result in anything.
Well, yeah, and truthfully, as business owners, I feel like the majority of your behaviors don't feel like they don't result in everything because you're all over the place. But it shouldn't be the case for your team. Your team should have direction.
So what's some of the biggest challenges you've had to face in your business and as a business owner to navigate to create the success you've created?
I mean, there's always challenges. Truthfully, it never really ends, and I think the real skill and the real art is on how to navigate those challenges with agility. I mean, there's things that'll pop up on your radar week in, week out, And yeah, it's that responsiveness to change which can really help you stay agile and move the needle in the right direction. You know, I mean, you could throw a billion things. I mean, I couldn't pinpoint any one thing, truthfully, that's been the biggest challenge. I mean, you go through global crises, and then you go through team member crises, and you go through client crises, and it's always a crisis. You'd love it. You love crisis.
That's my life. Leaders do deal with crisis. They do deal with challenges, and it's tough being a business owner. It's much harder being the business owner than working for somebody.
Yeah, you just got to stay grounded and like not freak out. You know, like sometimes there's typically you just got to slow down sometimes and like zoom out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the biggest challenges you see for business owners right now?
Well, again, it depends on the stage of the business that they're in. But I mean, we typically in the agency at the moment, we deal with businesses that are looking to have more of a predictable system around their forecasting and their growth patterns. So a lot of times when businesses come to us, they are very heavily dependent on things like word of mouth or referrals. And you cannot scale that. You know, so our model for them is, okay, well, how do we help you guys create more of a predictable system so we can forecast growth better? So, okay, what does 6 months look like? Okay, let's reverse engineer that. And then let's use the system to get to that. And so with that comes challenges and learnings and obstacles and reward. But like I say to, like I say to my clients, the thing that you told me earlier in the piece, success will come at your
inconvenience.
Correct. And so there's, I think it's a very big part of onboarding them is that they understand there's going to be things here you're not going to like. And there's going to be things here that are going to be very different to what you've done in the past. But if you want the outcome, you got to do the thing. So, yeah. So I'd say the things that we see commonly pop up are a lot of business owners don't, because they've never had to, understand what marketing budget looks like. When you come from this warm, fuzzy world of referrals and word of mouth, they never really have had to go down the path of, okay, we need to allocate this sort of money into a marketing expense, as an operational expense of our business. They don't really understand that. So that's always a bit of an obstacle. The other thing is sales. When they're used to just having warm, fuzzy conversations with people that have come from friends of theirs, it's a very different conversation when you start running, ads and traffic to people that don't know, like, and trust them. So that's a really big curve. We've got a great system for that, which has been delivering amazing results. But the point is, there's still things they need, and they could, and in most cases, they are by rights relatively successful already. Like, we won't work with businesses that aren't sort of at a certain level already. However, it's still things that they haven't done before. So there's a learning curve.
The definition of insanity is expecting different results doing the same thing.
Thanks, Albert. And
change equals progress. Without change, there can be no progress. And what you are not changing, you are choosing. And the hardest part of business is to implement effective change. And change makes people feel uncomfortable. And when you feel uncomfortable, if it feels inconvenient, you're on track. That's what I believe, that you're evolving.
I think as well, change, you need to measure things, right? What gets measured gets improved, right? And I think people sometimes are a bit too reactive. Like a crisis will happen in the business and they freak out, and they overreact to things instead of zooming out a little bit and going, okay, well, let's actually design the path around this if it needs to be, or do we just take it as aggregate data and it's just a zoomed out version? I think people get too wound up into reaction.
The moment. They get caught up in the moment.
Yeah.
You've got to keep the big picture in mind. you've got to keep the end in mind
Mm-hmm.
when there are crises, when there are difficult challenges in business.
And it's very rarely as bad as you think it is.
And most things are solvable.
Correct.
Most. But you spoke about gaining trust with your ad campaigns, right? That you know, how important is trust in business, and how do you grow trust?
I think trust is important as long as you don't have to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, trust me, this is the best thing for you. Like, that's a red flag. That's like turn around and run a mile.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you got to earn trust.
Earn trust.
And I think the way you do that is through having done it and having a proven method for that thing. Like, we're not guessing here. Like, this is the stats. This works. It's not me telling you. Here's the proof. Go speak to some of these people if you want.
So you have to earn the right to earn trust through the results you've created as a business owner, which gives you credibility.
Exactly. And then profile, and then you know, that sort of helps you with that status, you know.
And I mean, in my business journey over the last 36 years, every single day I've tried to fight to grow my credibility, which means fight to get better results. Because I believe if your outcomes are better, your credibility goes up, people trust you, and then that gives you influence. You can't have influence without trust. The number one characteristic of a leader is influence, and influence means follow me. You need to seek influence over results. And the only way you're going to have influence, which means people want to follow you, is that they trust you, and they'll trust you through your results, through your outcomes, through your output, through your journey, through your story. Right? That's such a critical component for trust. What's the biggest thing you've had to face in business?
I mean, there's all sorts of things that pop up all the time. Like the funny thing is, as you grow and you mature in business, things that were once a huge concern and an issue, kind of like a blimp on the radar, you know, years down the track. Like I remember, like in the very early days, you know, getting this email from a client who was pissed, and I was just thought the world's about to collapse and implode. You know, as you go on more and more in business, you know, there's always bigger problems and bigger things to overcome, and the things that were problems, you go back and laugh about. You know, I mean, team members leaving is always hard because we have that mentality where we're like, you know, it would be hard to operate without you, kind of thing. And then, you know, if there are problems that arise from clients or things like that, I mean, again, truthfully, I think these days you just sort of take that as part of the journey and, you know, fix it and move on, kind of thing. I don't know what the biggest issue. I don't know what the biggest thing would be, to be honest. I don't know. I think probably probably some of the bigger things are more inward facing. You know, like understanding that they have to always be working on myself to become a better version of me, which then, you know, has that ripple effect.
Very interesting what you said, though, that you are a successful entrepreneur, business owner in your space with the Site Shed and Tradie Web Guys, that you continually work on yourself. And, you know, the way you've mentioned the books that you've read today already, you know, you're not your normal plumber, and that's why you're now, that's why you're an entrepreneur, and you've got freedom and you've got choice in your life. And you know, and you saw that freedom and choice. We first connected in the direct sales industry, and that's where you learned some of these key principles. And it's a credit to you. You've taken it into your business journey, you know. So
well, yeah, it all really started back there with the books and the education, and like being able to get used to taking blows.
Yep.
like it's all part of the journey, and it's never done. And yeah, and I think truthfully, you have to be honest with yourself in the space of am I willing and do I want to actually improve? Because people don't like change, especially changing themselves. And I think
they want people around them to change, but they don't want to change themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And it's never really the case, like I read a lot of books and listen to a lot of podcasts and just things there. And I don't necessarily do it because I want to. I just do it because I need to. And I think truthfully, the only way that you can really stay agile is by, being a student and taking in information and counsel and then figuring out how that, if relevant, might apply to you as part of your ongoing journey,
Wow, what an amazing statement that was about allowing yourself to be led, taking counsel, accepting the fact that as a business owner, you need to change. Everybody on this podcast right now, wherever you are globally, you own your own business. You're business owners. So what do you need to change right now? Never mind about the person next to you. You. What do you need to get better at? How do you need to evolve? What behavior do you need to grow to become more effective as a business owner? And you've got to feed yourself with the right tools to bring about a change in your thinking. Because if your thinking doesn't change, nothing changes. And growth of behaviors comes from the way in which we think. If our thinking changes, our behaviors will change. And if our behaviors change, our results will change. And that was real gold what you just shared then, Jonesy. Very, very good.
And some of those things are not obvious. And some of those things, in order to, I suppose, take that step to the next level, like it's not going to be as simple as reading a book. Like it might involve you, getting away and taking time out and doing something that's maybe not seen as normal, or like just, there's things that you sometimes need to do on a personal level or can do, which I suppose diverge from that whole mainstream picture of what you think you might need to do in order to get that outcome. It's not always out of a textbook.
Correct. But it's the desire for self-improvement. It's the desire to not want to be the same person you are next year this time, to be a better version.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever's listening to this podcast right now, if you look at where you are today, May 2024, are you the same person for May 2023? And if you are, it means you have had no personal growth in the last 12 months. And if you want to grow your business, first you've got to grow yourself. And if you want to be a better leader, first you've got to lead yourself better before you can lead others. And that's a really important point that Jonesy shared today.
I think probably one of the things too that people don't do both enough and also well enough is planning. I don't think they really, like, it's amazing what you can achieve in a 12-month period if you engineer that journey. And that might often mean for you starting with the destination and working backwards, which is what I do. So, okay, well, we want to be here in 12 months and break that down into bite-sized chunks. So you're like, okay, well, in order to get here in 12 months, these are the things, the big steps, and then the smaller steps, and then the daily actions and stuff that, I need to do in order to make that become a reality. Mm-hmm. And it's quite empowering feeling when you do that, because essentially you almost always get there faster than you anticipated.
And one of the things that I've known about you is you have set your life up around your business. Your business has given you a lifestyle, the way in which you work, where you live in a beautiful part of Australia, 5 minutes from the beach. You go surfing every day. You can come and go as you like. You work your own schedule. You have freedom, right? How important is it for you to have freedom and choice as a business owner, which is a big driver for me and you to keep climbing up that mountain.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I've got 2 little kids and they're only little once. Mm-hmm. And so, my main focus is just spending the time that I can with them. And that was, my wife still laughs about it when I first met her on our first date. And she said, "Oh, what does the future look like for you?" And I said, "Oh, I want to be like a full-time dad." And that was like coming from a 26-year-old or something who was probably had about 15 beers at that point. But now we're pretty blessed that we do get to spend a lot of time with the kids, and we're always around, and there's we can do school pickups and drop-offs and things like that. Mm-hmm. But that's been designed that way. That didn't just happen. And so, yeah, you do, again, you just go back to the drawing board and really think, well, what's important? I mean, that might sound like your worst nightmare. Mm-hmm. And with a 2 and a 5-year-old, I can understand that at the moment. But I think what you don't essentially want is to be in a situation where you look back on those years and go, "Oh man, I wish I'd done this instead," or So
you had a clear picture of what you wanted your life to be as you grew your business, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's exactly how I imagined it. No. I thought it would. You always shoot for the stars, and if you miss, you hit the lamppost, kind of thing, So there's always things to be striving towards. But again, that's a part of you're green and growing, or ripe and rotting.
And that's the dream. The dream drives you. The vision that you have for your life as a business owner. What do you want? Jonesy identified what he wanted. So what do you want? Everyone's got to answer that question, and how you're going to design your business and your life to get it.
I mean, I'll just quantify on that point though. Like, the dream is the vision, but without the actions, it's only ever going to be a dream. Mm-hmm. I think that's where most people fall up. They've got the dream, they've got the idea, but then they're not prepared to actually, or they don't break it down into the steps in order to get to the dream.
Which takes discipline.
Everything's a discipline. Everything. Like, it's not convenient to get up and, like, how many times you hear people go, "Oh, I don't have time to go to the gym." Like, you have the time, you just don't make the time. Mm-hmm. Like, everything's a discipline. Like, it's inconvenient to be up and be in the gym at 5:45 every morning, but except this morning, thank you. Mm-hmm. But you got to make those decisions, otherwise, and you've got to make that part of your routine and just be a discipline. Like, I read in a book somewhere, I don't know who it was or what book it was, but it was essentially just make the decision once. There's people like, "Oh, I've given up smoking 3 times now." I'm like, right, so you haven't given up. Mm-hmm. Like, you make the decision once, and then it's done, and then don't go back to that,
And discipline is doing it when you don't want to do it. When you don't want to do it and you go do it, that's what discipline is. It's easy doing something that you like doing. But real discipline is doing something that you don't really want to do, but you need to do it, and you just go and do it. Right? And that's discipline's such an important part of developing a successful business. And all the business owners that I work with in leadership dynamics, they are all self-made millionaires. They are very disciplined. They have strong routines. They have a vision for their life. They have systems. They have processes. They surround themselves with the right people, and they understand the importance of being led by someone independently that they become accountable to, that speaks into their life and challenges them. Mm-hmm. And you've always had mentors in your life. Why do you think being led and mentored is important, Jonesy?
I can't think of a period in my adult life that's really stood out to me that didn't come from having guidance. Mm-hmm. And mentorship as well. It comes in many different ways, like there's coaching, sure. Like I've always got a coach of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's books, and then there's podcasts, and there's, sometimes movies even. There's things that can really, help you. Like I do. I like reading. I really, but my process now with reading, whereas I used to go and just read books back to back to back to back to back to back. Now I'll read a book, and then I'll listen to a book, and then I'll go, if it's good enough for me to invest my time in reading it, I'll go back and read it. And then if it's still as good as I thought it was the first two times, then I'll go in and implement what I learned from it. And I have a process for doing that. Like, this is how I implement things from books. And so I sort of, I was wearing it as a bit of a badge of honor to be reading so many books.
Yep.
It was at my detriment because I was reading all these books, but I wasn't implementing. And I think, so I think that's really key. Like, wherever you take your counsel from, just make sure you apply the time that's required in order to get the outcome or the reason why you went there in the first place.
That's great advice. Excellent advice.
I'll give you an example. Look, the first time I read Gino Wickman's book, Traction, it took me maybe 3 weeks to read that book, and it took me 3 months to implement it. 3 months. Mapping things out in our project management system and all that kind of stuff. But it's made me millions and millions and millions, like being able to just have those frameworks that I deployed from that book,
And it wasn't even your IP.
It never. And when is it ever someone's IP? It's the rehashed version.
And how much did that book cost you?
Oh, yeah, exactly. I don't know. Maybe $40 or something. I don't know. But imagine what it cost me to not read it.
Correct.
Or imagine what it not cost me to not implement it. And I didn't even do their program. Like, there's a program off the back of it, and I was like, I don't need to do the program.
But whoever's on this podcast right now, you've got the real deal here with Matt Jones from the Site Shed and Tradie Web Guys. There's absolutely no way that this time you've given up, wherever you are in the world, has been a waste of your time, right? You've got to look for the nuggets. You've got to look for the gold in what he's sharing with you guys today, because you can take what Matt's sharing from his heart and implement into your own business and into your own life. And that's why we're doing this podcast today. What's the biggest lesson you've learned about business?
I think just to stay agile, really, because I think that really has a ripple effect into every good, bad, and opportunity that arises in business. The ability to be agile and receptive to change.
So, what does agile mean?
Well, I mean, it means that you're not like set in concrete. You can change direction. You can pivot. You can move towards different things based on data and feedback and trends and things like that. I mean, you look at AI, for example. Like, if you're not using AI in your business today, like, you're already on your way out. Like, you have to pivot towards these things and figure out, how do we embrace this into our business for the better, And
how are you using AI?
We use it a lot with idea generation. We use it a lot with like framework modeling. We use it with some of our version 1 copy idea creation, things like that. So it's not really at a point yet, and I don't think it ever will be, where you can just sort of plug something in and then take it and, publish it. But it's certainly good. It's certainly been able to streamline some of our processes in areas like copywriting or development, or, even truthfully, like customer success. Like, does this email read well? Well, what could I say differently kind of things. Like, so being able to use tools to be able to take some of the heavy lifting out of what was formerly quite a labor intensive task has been quite valuable, and it's been able to increase and massively improve output.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
And then, but then you also have to be selective with obviously choosing the right tools, because there's a lot of them, and you can very easily, as I am very guilty of a lot of the time, slipping into technology paralysis because I just like shiny objects.
You love technology though, don't you?
I don't know if I'd love it, but I love it until the point where I hate it. I've just done a weekend, like a detox weekend, digital detox, where I was off grid for, Saturday and Sunday, for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it was great. I loved it. Didn't have my phone, didn't work, literally didn't work, so we just turned it off.
Mm-hmm.
So that was good. But yeah, look, it serves a purpose, and it should serve a purpose, and it should streamline operations. It shouldn't be like an extra thing to do. And there's so many great tools out there now which can, I always laugh at, businesses that we set up with, Google Workspace, like the emails I set you guys up on, 1,000 years ago, when they're starting out at young companies, they typically don't know any different. We set them up. They come from having a personal email, and we set them up with a business email in this tool, and that's all they've ever known. And I just laugh because they've never had to deal with all of the bullshit that comes with server-based emails back in the day, and all this stuff that would just constantly break. And it's amusing because you just get so used to something, like cloud bookkeeping software, like. And again, I'm probably one of those people. When I started up my business, I started up with zero bookkeeping software, and I've never known anything different, really. And I just can't imagine having to try to run a business without that now. Collecting a shoebox full of receipts and all this kind of stuff that people used to do. Like, it just seems crazy. So and I think AI is sort of heading down that path, where it's just becomes part of how we operate. If you embrace it and you embrace the right tools and you stay agile with it, then it will help you.
And just to finish off today, Jamesy, what's the biggest lesson in life that you've learned about life?
I think it's refreshing and inspiring to know that you are where you are because of the decisions that you've made. And if you want to get to somewhere different, then that's just a decision that you need to make and a strategy that you need to follow. But you are in control.
Wow, you are in control. You are where you are right now because of the decisions you have made for your life and for your business. Jonesy didn't miss you on that. Right.
Yeah, and so you can stop bitching and blaming people and whinging about your job and all this kind of shit. If you don't like it, change it.
And if you don't like where you're at, change it.
Exactly. If you don't like the way you look, change it. If you don't like the way you think,
I think I look quite good, mate.
I wasn't talking to you, Pete. You look great.
Any closing comments for our listeners, Jonesy?
Yeah, I think just in essence, the ability to be able to take the time, first of all, to sit down and figure out, well, what does it look like? What do I want it to look like, and by when? And once you have that destination, as unrealistic as it may be, figure out some stepping stones towards it and break them down into actionable steps that are achievable. But make sure that you make your path to achieving those things habitual. Don't just write on a whiteboard and never look at it again. What are the actual actions that you need to take to help you move yourself closer towards that? And measure things, like put KPIs and metrics on, success markers on things so that if you're trending towards that destination. Because I was guilty of this, excuse me, for years. when you write the big goals and you stick them on the whiteboard and you don't have any pathway to get to it, and it never happens because of that reason. It's not the goal, it's the journey towards it that makes the difference.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. It's not the goal, it's the journey towards it. Have a plan. Brilliant. Well, I want to thank you, Jonesy, for giving up your time today. 6:15 in the morning you came on. You were 5 minutes late, but that's okay with your 2 kids. All right.
They needed Frozen put on TV, apparently.
Right, okay. And for everyone out there, thanks for your time. I know it's late for some of you, and some of you it's early here, wherever you are in Australia. But it's been a great podcast with the founder and owner of the Site Shed and Tradie Web Guys, Matt Jones. We'll see you later.
Thanks for having me. And good luck, everyone. Go get them.
Thanks for your time. Take care. That's a wrap for today. Until next time, check out our online high performance team masterclass. It's got everyone talking. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people are using that online program now to lead their teams more effectively and to create a high performance environment. There's no assignments, no exams. It's packed full of practical strategies and resources to help you build and grow the right team in a thriving culture to drive your business forward with you. Go to leadershipdynamics.com.au for all the details. If you found value in today's episode, subscribe, leave us a review, share it with your network. I'm sharing a lot of my leadership journey, and I know it'll make a difference in your life to achieve the vision and the dreams that you have for your business and your life. Keep climbing.